Hi everyone, my name is Mohammed Wahid. I'm an assistant sports editor at the Towerlight, and I'd like to welcome you all to the Towerlight Take, where we discuss some of the latest news going on around the National Football League. To my left is Editor-in-Chief Karuga Koinange, and to my right is staff writer Tim Klapac. How are you guys today?
Good. How you doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
Good. We'll kick off today's show by talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles fell on Sunday Night Football to the Dallas Cowboys 27-20, falling to a 4-5 record. So Tim, since you seem very intrigued about this, the Eagles, is their season over?
So being an Eagles fan, Mohammed, Sunday night was difficult, to say the least. I may have gone to lay in bed and watched the Super Bowl 52 highlights to remind myself that there were better days. What you dreamed of did actually happen. But it's tough to say that this season is going to end on a positive note, but it's not impossible. We're 4-5, 2 games out of first place, and we still have 5 division games left to go, and the team's only getting healthier. Lane Johnson could have played this week, didn't want to risk it. Darren Sproles hopefully will be back in a couple weeks after thinking he'd be back this week. It was tough to see them drop that game, a game you thought they'd have coming off the bye against a Dallas team who looked to be done themselves.
At home, too.
Yep, at home, in prime time. Yeah.
Yep.
But it is not over, Eagles fans. It is not over. Keep the faith. And if you can't keep the faith, just look at the hat or shirt you bought. I know I do.
I'll be honest. I actually agree with you. In fact, I unequivocally believe that the Eagles are still definitely going to win this division. I have zero faith in the Washington Redskins. Like, Alex Smith obviously was their big addition in the offseason, trading for him and then signing him to that big deal that they wouldn't sign Kirk Cousins to for whatever reason, even though he performed really well. But there's something about the Redskins that I can't buy into their team. And every time you think they're about to kind of take over or take that next step, they let you down. Now, the Eagles, obviously, from last year, their team has changed a lot, and Carson Wentz did kind of start the season off slow because he was coming off injury. Nick Foles started the first few games, and you kind of saw him start to, get back into rhythm the last few games. But it's hard for me to explain what happened Sunday night against the Cowboys, I can't lie. I mean, I know the Cowboys still do have a very good offensive line, and Ezekiel Elliott is a monster. That's just undeniable. But that Eagles defense is just not the same from last year. Last season, they were top 5 in the league in interceptions. This season, bottom 5 in the league. So they're not creating the turnovers that they used to. And that was a big part of their success last year, was being able to capitalize off of turnovers, field position. But this season, they haven't been able to do that. But even with all that said, a lot of their talent is still there. They've still got Michael Bennett there, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, and I think with the addition of those people, or with the talent that they have on the defensive side, they still have the best chance to win the division.
So both of you are in agreement that the Eagles can turn it around. Tim, how can they do that?
It's going to be tough. You have the toughest remaining schedule in the NFL. The stat I saw said that the winning percentage of their remaining games is .635, which is essentially a death sentence in the NFL. They're not looking like a team who's going to be good enough to make the playoffs. The wild card's not going to come out of the NFC East, in my opinion, and so their only hope is the division. But with 2 games against Washington left to go, including, you'd like to think it's a gimme win against the Giants, but after we saw Sunday, there's no gimme wins. I think there is a chance there, and if there's any team that can rally together and get it done, it is the Eagles.
Karuga?
Like I said, defense. That's the best way they're going to win. No offense in that division, to me, is really explosive enough to serve as a major threat. So as long as the Eagles can kind of get things together defensively, I think they'll be fine.
Now moving on to the Baltimore Ravens. They have a 4-5 record. They're coming out of their bye week. The last time we saw them, they fell to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, Karuga, what are your thoughts on the Ravens at the midway point?
This team is really frustrating, honestly. The Ravens have this great ability to never win convincingly. It's always a battle every single season to win that division. And I get the AFC North is one of the toughest divisions in football, but this team is just really inconsistent. Joe has been up and down this season. He started the season really hot, And these last few games, I think they've been exposed in a way because they're facing a lot more talented teams. Obviously, the New Orleans Saints, Pittsburgh Steelers were coming off a hot streak and their offense was just clicking on all cylinders. But the biggest thing to me is their offensive inconsistency, and then defensively, everyone touts them as, the number one defense, and they have this great defense, and it's undeniable that they do have a very good defense, but they don't have a guy who you can just say, go get home against the quarterback. And to me, that's their biggest issue. And everyone says, Terrell Suggs, he's having this great season, but if you really watch the games and see who they're going up against, they don't have a dominant pass rusher, and I think that's one of their main issues defensively because they don't have anyone they can cover over the middle. So if you give a quarterback time to read the defense, they just pick you apart, especially these more talented teams that they're facing. So I think they need to address their defensive issues and then also their offensive inconsistency.
I'll tell you what, seeing your reaction to the question being asked, it makes me, concerned if it's exactly going to be me with the Eagles in a year or two, because it has been frustrating for Ravens fans. I've been surrounded by Ravens fans for years, whether, going out watching games in the Baltimore area and such, or, we're at Towson, plenty of Ravens fans. So you get to see the concern on their faces. And it's justified concern. In the article I wrote for this week's issue, we talk about the instability in the organization, the lack of a future, really. Ozzie Newsome's leaving after this year. He's been with the team since they became a team. So that's concerning. John Harbaugh, is he going to be there? It doesn't look like he's going to be back next season. And Joe Flacco's in a contract year. It seemed like he lives off contract years early in the season, but it just hasn't happened this year, and people want to see Lamar Jackson. So it's in a division where the Steelers now seem unbeatable, and the Steelers have the Ravens number, or not Steelers, I'm sorry, the Bengals have had the Ravens number the last two games. We'll see after this Sunday.
And now you see these reports coming out of Harbaugh and the Ravens agreeing to kind of mutually part ways at the end of the season.
Exactly. And that could swing either way.
Right. And I think that Harbaugh and Flacco, they came together in 2008, and it looks like 10 years later they might be leaving together. So.
And that's a great point to make. And just the rest of the AFC field seems tough for the Ravens to catch up to, with the Chargers looking like the third best team. So you're talking about two of the three best teams in the conference are coming out of one division. And then the AFC South, the Titans seem to look like a playoff team now after beating New England. Yeah. It's tough to see Baltimore coming out of this hole. I said in the end of my article, I believe 5 of their remaining games are against teams with a 500 or better record.
Ravens and Bengals, 1 p.m. CBS this Sunday. One player you will likely not see on CBS this Sunday, and the next time Pittsburgh is on the field with Jacksonville, would be Le'Veon Bell. And he had a deadline today of 4 p.m. Eastern Time to show up and sign the franchise tag, which, as far as we know, he has not done yet. So what are your thoughts on Bell's situation right now? Karuga?
I cannot believe how the organization has treated Le'Veon Bell. I feel so bad. This is why I'm 99% of the time on the player's side. Because here's the thing that sucks about being an NFL player. You get drafted to a team, you play for a low salary for a number of years, especially if you're a running back, and then they totally use you up for those 4 years. They give you the ball, they throw you the ball, handoffs, reverses, every kind of play. And then when you finally want to capitalize on all the success you've had, you're the bad guy. All he wants to do is get paid, and I get that they offered him the franchise tag, and at some point, it is a bit of selfishness, but it's a business at the end of the day. That's the NFL. It's a business, and players need to capitalize because, especially if you're a running back, you don't know how long your career is going to last. So to me, I don't blame Le'Veon at all for what he's doing. I think it's also disgusting what his offensive lineman has said in reports to the media, basically calling him out, telling him he's selfish, and telling him that he shouldn't worry about his money. It's kind of one of those unwritten codes in the NFL that you just don't talk about another player's contract, especially if you're a teammate of them. So I just think Le'Veon Bell is doing the right thing here, and I wouldn't blame him if he doesn't play the whole year.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. I'm going to disagree with you to a certain degree in this. You said the NFL is a business, and the Steelers are part of that business. And they, as we've seen with James Conner performing this year, they don't need to shelve out $25, $28, $30 million for a running back when the system clearly works for running backs. And if James Conner, no knock to him, if he can just come in as a starter out of nowhere and perform the way he is doing, You know, let's go try and get Barry Sanders out of retirement and see if he can do it too. Because it seems to be a system thing, in my opinion, not a player thing. Not to knock Le'Veon Bell. After seeing what happened to Earl Thomas this year, I believe a guy should get what's his. You know, a player should get the money he thinks he deserves. And if Bell wants to risk skipping an entire season before getting a chance to go in the open market, he should get that opportunity. But who's to that it's going to play out that well for him? We've been following Le'Veon Bell all year, whether it's the offseason holdout to now, and I think in the end, this is going to hurt his value, how much he's going to get. A team will pay him. We all know that. A team's going to pay him $20 million to bring him in. Hopefully the Eagles will do it. Knock, Howie Roseman. But it's going to be less money than he could have gotten had he played. But then again, if he played, he could have gotten hurt. And I think both sides had a reason to do what they did. The Steelers want to save money. Bell wants his money. And if Bell wants to risk sitting a whole season before getting paid, it's his prerogative.
See what happens.
Thank you all for joining us for the Towerlight Take, and we'll be back next time with more NFL news.